The brand Cannondale has a reputation of being a little left of centre. The stereotypical image that pops into your head when you think of Cannondale might not illustrate the sophistication and development behind Cannondale's innovation. At first glance, you could be forgiven for thinking that the Cannondale Jekyll is a little bit of a departure from Cannondale's history, but that's not the case. Cannondale have been building this bike for a very long time. Let's take a little bit of a history lesson. So, in 1971, a guy by the name of Joe Montgomery, while on a camping trip, decided he should build trailers for bicycles. 4 years later, Joe Montgomery goes to New York City to a bike expo where he sells his bike trailer and a line of pannier bags to 2,500 retailers, which was the birth of Cannondale. While he was there, he met up with a guy called Todd Patterson who insisted on building bikes. Fast forward to 1991 and the release of the Cannondale SE2000, the very first full suspension high pivot bike. This bike was unlike anything else. You see, the competition was all on rigid bikes or bikes with just a suspension stem. This was a full suspension bike that turned rough terrain into a highway. It was donned the teleportation device of 1991. Fast forward 27 odd years. Now, before you think my math is off, remember this bike has been in development for quite a few years now. So 27 years on, the technology has finally caught up, allowing Cannondale to revisit that high pivot design that they'd started working on so many years ago. Now, they have done away with the single pivot cantilever beam style and gone for a 4-bar linkage or a horse link, coupled that with a guidler pulley. They've also used a thing that they call the gravity cavity, allowing them to install the shock in the actual down tube. And I believe this is the lowest positioned rear shock on the market. Cannondale have produced a bike that gives you a rearward acting suspension path and what feels like more travel than any of us have done in the last 2 years. Cannondale have really hit the mark with this bike. Key takeaways for me on the 2022 Cannondale Jekyll. I'm 187 centimeters tall. I rode a large for this and it fitted me perfectly. I did fit a slightly longer stem because the stem out of the box was 45mm and that felt a little short to me. The water bottle placement on this bike is stellar. It's super high up, really easy to grab a drink, and it still fits a 750ml water bottle in the large. It was super impressive for me. Suspension setup, the valves are nice and easy to get to, so there's no having to bend stuff around to try and get your shock pump on. However, when I was riding the bike, I reached down for the pro pedal or lockout lever. It was a little far away from my liking. I rarely use those anyway, so it's probably not something that would be an issue for me, but I did notice it was a long way down. The handlebars on this particular bike, I believe they're an alloy Cannondale 3. They have a little bit of an unusual sweep or setback to me, but they're a 31/8. It's super easy to change over to your own style of handlebar. The suspension path on this bike feels phenomenal. Riding down my local trails, the bike felt super planted, which is unusual for me hopping from e-bikes back to bikes. They usually feel a little bit jittery. This felt super planted and felt like I could accelerate out of turns really, really well. If you have an opportunity, pop down to your local Cannondale retailer. The Jekyll will be in store very soon. Even the car park test impressed me, which is unusual for bikes. So if you get a chance, have a ride on this one. For me, thanks for watching. I'm out. Peace.